Stormblood came around, and Machinist got fucked. Machinist got absolutely fucked. It was so good in Heavensward, and then it got fucked. Like, seriously.
Okay, yeah, fine, Larry's right. Stormblood came around and Machinist got screwed. As someone who made Machinist for the entirety of Heavensward, I had to switch mains when Stormblood came around to find any enjoyment in this game. Don't get me wrong, Machinist isn't broken by any means. It still has the tools to fit into any party. Tools, wrench, reassemble has the wrench and this... Transitioning from Heavensward to Stormblood, anyone will tell you the amount of Machinists you saw around diminished heavily. Machinists are now a rare breed. Us former Machinist mains now salute each other as we pass by, remembering the second greatest calamity of our kin, the Stormblood expansion. A tear rolls down our eyes as we receive another 1% nerf to our hypercharge and hammering in the final nail to close our coffin for Stormblood. But what is it that makes Machinist so man the patch of Stormblood? Well, it has to do with what we used to have. Before Stormblood came around, the ranged DPS were essentially all casters in a sense. Along with the mages, Bard and Machinist power options meant that they had to put cast times on every ability. For Machinist this was Gallsparrow, and I don't remember what it was for Bard. We were glad to finally have this removed. This was a good change. And as far as I'm concerned, this was the only good change. Bishop turret was nerfed, our CC off global cooldown stuff was no longer dealing damage, we lost our TP MP buffs and made it cross class, same with our CC abilities by the way. Also CC abilities are mostly useless now, ammunition now only goes up to 3 in stacks instead of the 5 it used to be, wildfire went from 15 to 10 seconds, and worst of all, the heat system. Now the other changes are kinda small, but the heat system itself is just so clunky, and as a result of this addition, the whole class suddenly felt clunky because the heat is what we play around, kinda? Basically we stay above 50 heat and below 100. Then overheat once we have wildfire and rapid fire up, and ironically that's what most of the class is these days. Stay in the threshold, burn everything for 10 seconds, repeat every 60. It sounds so simple, it sounds so fun, so why is it so clunky? Well, let's explain the Machinist Loop. Your split, slug, and clean shot rotation is your main rotation, the 1, 2, 3. First off, if these don't crit or direct hit, then you basically feel like you do far less than below average damage. That's not just it though. Besides these two factors, we've also got the proc itself. See, most classes have a class combo where they just, go 1, 2, 3 and it's 100% guaranteed to just lead into the next one. For warriors, it'd be like Heavy Swing, Skull Sunder, and Butcher's Block for, every time. They guaranteed the combo and, thus increase their potency. That's not the case with Machinist. There's a 50% chance you can get the proc for the next hit in the combo rotation. So essentially you hit split shot, beg for a proc, hit slug shot, and then not get a proc, meaning you suddenly can't do your strong combo finisher because RNGesus put its cold hand on your shoulder. So while every other class is like, hell yeah, 1, 2, 3 baby, Machinist is sitting around in the corner going like 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, finally! Now we do have something to force the proc called ammo, and we get 1 ammo every 15 seconds and 3 ammo every 30. This sounds good in concept, but you have to keep in mind that after we used Wildfire, we've got about 60 seconds to let everything flow back in. To get the most out of Wildfire, you have to get the clean shot already ready and, procced, meaning you had to either get lucky or forcefully consume ammo to get there. Meaning ammo is on a very irregular cooldown, also meaning your Wildfire damage can get somewhat irregular. Especially when everyone recommends just using up the ammo whenever it's up. During this all, by the way, you've already forgotten that I mentioned heat earlier. Keep in mind that every non-ammo shot is 5 heat on the bar. Bringing heat down with cooldown is a DPS loss unless you'd instead have gotten a guaranteed proc with split shot that leads into slug shot because that's actually higher potency. And now we get to the turret. The turret is essentially a set it and forget it damage over time that every 120 seconds can get hypercharged to apply a 6%. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, it's 5% damage increase on the target for 30 seconds. Hypercharge's debuff lasts about 10 seconds per shot, but the hypercharge turret buff lasts about 20, so it comes down to about 30 seconds of hypercharge, 5% damage increase. We don't use the bishop turret anymore because it's just weak, so we'll just stick with the rook auto turret for all of this. It also has an overdrive ability that fires 800 potency that destroys the turret and won't let you place another turret for 30 seconds. Okay, real talk, this ability is kind of garbage, and using it at the end of Wildfire for a damage increase is horrible. The only use for this ability is for enrage phases. You see, people think that this is front-loading 10 shots from the Rook auto turret. That doesn't take into account the fact that one shot from the turret that crits, yes, the turret can crit, would already null this ability. The only time this skill would be useful is if you get 0 critical strikes from the turret whatsoever, so you have to kind of just get really unlucky, you don't have hypercharge up, or just want to see what an 800 potency ability looks like as your DPS drops, drastically. So Overload is kind of garbage. I do not use it, ever. It's just a DPS loss in my opinion. And then there's Flamethrower. Look, I can get into the details of this ability, right? But I won't, because I'll tell you its function in our rotation for all machinists. We use this Flamethrower, this ability, this right here, our level 70 ultimate ability, in our rotation to quickly get into overheat state, and then turn it off immediately. That's it. It has no other function than big pulls, and even then it's pretty bad. If 5.0 comes around and they don't drastically change or just flat out remove this ability, I'll be pretty mad. So heat, turrets, ammo, cooldowns, rotation procs, 1 minute rotations, and RNG, that's Machinist. And what makes it so clunky? The fact that every single thing I mentioned that makes Machinist is now this is how you use it, except if notation to it. And even when you do everything properly, your reward is mediocre at best damage, if you even get lucky. But hey, at least Dismantle is good now, right? So what can they do to fix it? That's a video for a whole nother time, and honestly, a lot of people are gonna have very, very different opinions on it. For me, I would think that using ammo sort of like Aetherflow does for summoners, I think that would personally be a really, really good change, to have ammo be sort of like a way to enable certain abilities to be used, so that we can only use that during the wildfire. Sort of like how we want to use certain abilities to get into the Dreadworm stance with Summoner. I thought that was a really good idea, but in retrospect, I don't know how much that would play into heat. And I don't know how useful overheat would be at that point, because they would then have to increase the overheat time to maybe about, if you want to make it work like Aetherflow does, you want to increase the overheat time to about 15 seconds and want to bring Wildfire back to 15 seconds as well. Which does mean quite a significant buff to Wildfire, but it might be worth it, because all of the passive things that we used to bring as a Machinist with the CC, with the extra bit of damage, they keep chipping away at that while Bard doesn't get punished for the same thing. I'm sorry, but Bard is definitely favored in all of these patches. We haven't seen a good change to this class in a really long time, and they waited a whole expansion to fix this class while Warrior got its fix in 4.2. It launched problematically, it got entirely reworked in 4.2, and then it became an amazing class. For everybody, really accessible, really easy to use, kind of brain dead. I will say that it's kind of overpowered as well, but at least it was fun and functional. Machinist isn't fun. A new player who gets into the game isn't gonna see Machinist and its rotation and think it's fun, and that's what I think the biggest problem with this class is, that the clunkiness, the lack of fun, and the lack of actual utility that it now brings, or well, doesn't bring in this case, it's just too much for us to excuse to tell. Like, if a new player joins the game, I wouldn't tell them to play Machinist. I would tell them to instead play Bard, because Bard would be a much better class for them to pick up, because it's also more useful, not useless, and actually brings a lot of fun to them. So that's kind of my take on Machinist, and this is coming from a former Machinist main who just is bitter about this whole thing. So what do you think about the Stormblood Machinist? Do you agree or disagree with my statements? Let me know in the comments below. Hit the like, hit the big red subscribe button, watch another video. My name's Fable, I'll see you again soon, and hey, check it out, we now have an outro.